Well, thank you very much. I'm grateful to India Leprosy Foundation uh, under the chairmanship of the Tarun Das for the privilege he has given me of speaking on this 14th day Foundation Day celebration of the Sasakawa-India Leprosy Foundation. I'm also delighted to see Dr. Vivek Lal, the new CEO, who has joined the organization with a new sense of zest and energy. I'm grateful to Professor Takahiro for speaking on behalf of uh, Sasakawa, who has given this far-reaching, innovative strategy for leprosy elimination his enormous support. To convey, Professor, my warm greetings to Sasakawa, whom I've had the privilege of knowing ever since I lived in Japan for 5 years during my period as the Minister of Economic and Commercial in the Indian Embassy. And since then, the Japanese relationship has been an abiding one with me. So do convey my warm regards and my greetings. Also, do convey to him the profound gratitude of the people of this country for this enormously innovative work which his support has enabled under the distinguished leadership of Mr. Tarun Das to undertake the multiple activities which impinge on a very important problem that India confronted and the efforts being made to really totally not only eradicate but eliminate it completely. Uh, I think that with these, I must also recognize the fact that those who spoke and have been recipients of the scholarship and the forms of encouragement by this foundation have demonstrated the enormous change in life which the support has really brought about in terms of improving patterns of economic activity, in terms of making a meaningful contribution to society, in terms of not only overcoming the stigma which was earlier attached, but of becoming and mainstreaming themselves with the gainful economic activity for themselves and value added for the society. So I'm sure that these images of those who have received the scholarship and the little words that they have spoken, including the last one, which fortunately got cut off due to the virtual thing, giving the giving the sense of hope and expectation which the support has really brought about. As I look to the future, Professor Takahiro, I must say that there are several aspects which concern me. Uh, First and foremost, you're absolutely right that the COVID 19 has really brought about a fundamental change in the manner in which society looked at issues of legacy ailments along with new ailments. So, the biggest challenge before us, as we see, as we deal with the ongoing pandemic, is a lot of the resources and public outlay and the immediate concern will really, for natural and understandable reasons, go towards dealing with the consequences of the current ongoing pandemic until a vaccine which is safe and tested is not only accepted but can be really given on a scale which is commensurate with the urgency which COVID has brought about. A lot of public resources have, therefore, for understandable reasons, both by the central and the state government, would be for the next couple of years get increasingly focused towards dealing with the concept, dealing with the issues of life, and thereafter the issues of livelihood which this pandemic has created. It's once in a life, more than once in a lifetime. Last one, if it was Spanish flu, was only in 1820 or so, which is long ago, and before that, the bubonic plague. So this pandemic really is a kind of a thing which many of us, for many lives, are encountering for the first time. Its consequences are indeed very serious. Now, what does it really mean for an entity like the current foundation? First and foremost, I must say that the pandemic issue is a new problem. The leprosy issue is a legacy problem. How can one begin to look at the issues of the new problems of the pandemic without ignoring the legacy problems of an ailment like leprosy? And what kind of a balancing between legacy and the new challenges would be harmonious for a more cohesive social order? As I see the data, the four critical challenges do remain still under-addressed. And I'll come to what can be done to perhaps do it. First, I think that clearly, in spite of the LCDC, the issue of detection, early detection, and community participation in the detection of the leprosy itself is a continuing challenge. Issues of voluntary disclosure require the kind of awareness program which this foundation is undertaking, and they only need to become more intensified, considering the fact that a lot of the focus and energy will go towards the COVID issues. The second is the issue of early diagnostic. Considering the fact that in India, the last data was still an average detection of 100,000 cases a year, which is not small, the commencement of early diagnostic is very, very central to ensure that the damage is really uh, minuscule to the persons affected by the ailment. Connected with this is the increasing adoption of alternative therapies in terms of vaccines which have come out, which can prevent the occurrence of this, uh, the distribution of the newer vaccines which have come out, these immuno vaccines, is really is going to be a continuing challenge. And finally, something that the foundation itself is focusing on, namely in terms of livelihoods thereafter, meaningful inclusion of the people affected as an important segment of society, which we have seen in some of the pictures in the short film, of becoming mainstreaming them into economic activity and gainful forms, not only restoring the dignity, but enhancing the dignity, uh, notwithstanding the infection and their total elimination. Fortunately, the society whose work is now increasingly being recognized has brought about dramatically enhanced degree of awareness. There needs to be greater synergy. As you go forward, I think that the challenge that I can see is three: how to ensure that public outlays, which are important in the health sector as a whole, and public outlay that I have pointed out in the health sector in India has been woefully inadequate. Indeed, it took a pandemic of this kind to make us realize that in comparison to other peer group countries, in comparison to what our needs are, public outlay today in the health sector as a whole is less than 1% of GDP. Uh, this is quite contrary to various pledges which we had made earlier, but the more recent one in 2017, when we had pledged that public outlay on health will really increase from 0.9 to be around 2.4% of GDP from both the central and the states. Uh, I think we need to redouble the efforts in enhancing public outlay. And in the process of enhancing public outlay, our first effort must be to try not only pandemic is there, but the legacy ailments like the leprosy does not get neglected in the allocation of public outlay resources, because these are problems which require societal redressal in a very major and a fundamental way. So You try and see that the priority towards the issues connected with leprosy do not get in any way reduced. The second important problem is that if for understandable reasons, uh, government's attention for the next 1 or 2 years will get increasingly focused on issues connected with the pandemic, what kind of gainful public-private partnership and what kind of a role NGO organizations have now a double responsibility, not only of continuing to do what they were doing earlier, but to some extent fill up a bit of the vacuum which will inevitably get created as governments get more increasingly focused in dealing with issues of the pandemic. The enhanced role of NGO organizations like the Sasakawa Foundation in this particular segment becomes increasingly more relevant over the next few years, till at least the global society is not able to overcome the current ongoing pandemic satisfactory means. Third, I think that Professor Takahiro has very rightly emphasized the new kinds of partnership visualized by the WHO and other international organizations through initiatives of the various kinds in the context of the post-pandemic period, and in what way these can be mainstreamed and can be translated into national policies, and apart from national policies, sub-national policies, because in a country as large as ours, the state governments have an exceedingly important role to play in, in an area of health diseases, and in an area of leprosy elimination. So the international efforts need to be redoubled. And finally, I think that what kind of regulatory and other changes are necessary to ensure that NGOs of the kind whose remarkable activity has been demonstrated by the sort of things which we have seen today on its 14th Foundation Day, what kind of a regulatory and other changes will further make it more meaningful for public-private partnership with international entities and other organizations who are redoubled in a country of the size of India. So these were some of my thoughts, and at the end, I want to express my sincere gratitude to the Sasakawa Foundation for these remarkable initiatives, and to also compliment the great work which Chairman Tarun Das has been doing. Good Mr. Das, that whatever Mr. Das does has an element of it always turns out to be a success story. Mr. Das does not take on projects, and Mr. Das does not take on initiatives which are not designed for remarkable innovation and success. This particular initiative of his, which he commenced many years ago, has also yielded the same kind of an innovative success, which is characteristic following of the efforts of Chairman. So I thought that, Yassine, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I know you for a long time. It's very nice of you that you have devoted some attention to the Sasakawa Foundation. These words I want to thank everyone who has participated today, and to convey to you my good wishes for your continued success. The Finance Commission's recommendation has devoted an important segment of its recommendations to strengthening the health and health infrastructure. And hopefully, when these get implemented, some of the problems which I have mentioned will be resolved or will be emulated in a manner which is. Thank you very much. Wishing the 14th Foundation Day every success.